Black.
This simply is the final piece of authorizing the state to go ahead and enter into the agreements that we need for construction of the 6-unit T hangar out at the airport, and it's a normal procedure. So I think you've already adopted the project and passed on the bidder, and this is the final piece to have the state act on our behalf.
This is just so we can get our money, right?
Yeah, they'll give you, to make sure they funnel 95% of the cost to you, and the city only pays 5%.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Mr. Dahl, second by Mr. Hansi. Any comment? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Let's move on to 8C, consideration of approving a recommendation from the Economic Development Authority that would approve the EDA of entering into an agreement with Fifth Avenue Designs for design and bid packaging of plans for the construction of a 13,500 square foot manufacturing facility for Redford Hypersonic LLC on lot number 4 in the Rush Creek Business Park. In addition to EDA representatives, it is anticipated that Kevin Timmerman of LLC of Fifth Avenue Design will be in attendance to present the findings, to answer any appropriate questions. See attached report.
My question is, do we have a development agreement?
No.
Then I would move we table it until we have a development agreement that the council can agree on.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Robertson, second by Mr. Dahl to table. Any comment? Mr. Black.
If I may, I can understand the desire to have everything neatly wrapped in a package, and certainly I applaud that. That's normally how we'd like to have everything tied up. The unfortunate part of this project at this point is the timetable that we've been somewhat asked to operate under, and I believe you all received that timetable and information. And so to this point, we've been trying to keep things moving in a positive direction, realizing there's at times there's a cost to things. And you've already been so kind to allocate $15,000 to do the preliminary work, and that has been accomplished, and we are now at the point of asking ourselves, do we want to move the process forward one more step, and that is to have the plans drawn, but acknowledging that there are some things that aren't done. And so this is not necessarily any kind of a final form, but I'd like to share with you a draft of something that Dan and I worked on today.
I have a final one, Wendy, if you want.
Did you make changes?
Yes.
Okay, would you come forward then, so I didn't hear anything from you, so I didn't know if there was anything more.
I received it, unfortunately, very late. By the time I got to it.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there good changes, or?
Yeah. Just make sure we understand.
Otherwise,
Top
nothing
picture.
here.
Okay?
Yeah.
Nope, that's all. It's just some basic.
So it's the legal part.
Yep.
Starts with your motion. Motion to table for priority, it's really not open for discussion or debate. That needs to be dispensed with some way or another before you can proceed in discussion.
A motion on the table. Any comment on the motion?
Withdraw it, pending discussion.
It's a priority motion.
Well, I'll withdraw the motion for the moment, but what are these plans gonna cost?
Yeah, good question.
Mr. Chiglo, is that?
Is the person seconded, whoever seconded, are you in favor of withdrawing the motion? So now we're back to ground zero, there is no motion.
What is this gonna cost to design the plans?
Okay. Do you want to start with that question, Ted? I mean, or
That is my question. All the discussions that I'm aware of that have taken place over development agreement had a $20,000 price tag for a job, I won't vote for that. So I want the details of this development agreement worked out before we spend any more money on this.
And I understand that, and I'm, at this point, I mean, I could just probably say, I agree, and we walk away, but I think it's worth one look at least, because I've got, Mr. Bunky and Mr. Hollum have volunteered their time to be working on that agreement. And they've arranged their schedules to try to make something happen. Whether that will be productive, I don't know.
To work on the development agreement?
Correct. Yes. As part of the transition, they want to we're gonna have a little session just to introduce each other, our thoughts, where we're headed. And what I was trying to do on this sheet, and this is by no means the final form, but just to, this pretty much encapsulates what we've been talking about as we've moved through this process. And essentially, there's two major things that need to be done for this project to even rise to some level of getting done. One is, Rushford Hypersonic needs to complete its phase one with a major tooling supplier and provide satisfactory documentation of that to this council and to the EDA. So that's first and foremost. That is not done, and to me that's as important as what the fees are, but I understand the question about the fees because that's on our side of the table. The second one is that the city then is responsible for designing a building, you know, that will meet his needs. And then at the same time, we need to, before we do anything more with a building, we need to have that lease purchase agreement finalized. And the details of it, I would envision, would have the value of the job, because at the end of the buyout, that's where you calculate, you know, here's how much I owe. And at this point, Rushford Hypersonic certainly has taken a position, and as you note, your position would be probably lower than their position. Significantly. And certainly that's to be anticipated and should be expected and is right. You know, the question is there a way to negotiate for the benefit of the community something in between that everybody can live with? That's the real question. And whether that's going to ever happen, I don't know. But I was encouraged that the mayor and Vern were willing to take the time to start looking at it, and this was their request to try to hook up and start this process, because I think they realize that at some point we need to have an answer on that before any building is going to get built. And so of course my concern is, what is the cost of doing the interim step, which is to devise the plans and the bid documents, because you know, we've looked at enough engineers and reports to know they're not cheap. You know, there's a price to them. And I've got the architect here so he can answer the hard question as to what the number is. But more importantly it's not just the cost, it's what if we go down this road and one of the what ifs is we don't have an agreement. Well, then there is no building built. Or we go down this road and one of the what ifs is Mr. Fox is unsuccessful with his process and doesn't complete phase one satisfactorily, then we don't have a building built. And so the purpose of moving ahead with the building is simply a timing issue. And the question is it worth pushing the timing issue at the expense of having the documentation finished completely? And maybe it isn't. But if there's a way to make that happen, and what I was talking to Mr. Fox today is to show good faith that instead of this is just the city's responsibility, that if this doesn't come to fruition, he's willing to take half the cost of that cost and share it with the city.